Hey, what's going on? It is another Tuesday. You know what that means. You are back with the brothers from the 818. My name is Dave, as you know. I'm back with my man for how long? The last 37 years. Caleb's in the house. Caleb, what's going on with you, man?
It's good, man. Everything is good. As I usually share on a Tuesday evening, I am excited for the opportunity to do this podcast. And I'm always excited because we have some wonderful conversations, and some of the feedback that I've been getting is just remarkable. I mean, I'm talking to people that I haven't talked to in years. And so it's moving people. It's starting conversations, and that's what we wanted to do with this podcast. So let's keep it pushing.
I feel that, man. I've been talking to people I haven't talked to in years. And what's interesting, people are like, man, you and Caleb still running. I remember when y'all was, doing your thing back in school and so forth and so on. And, this started in junior high for us. That's how long ago it was. I don't know if junior high still exists. Do you know if there's any junior high schools out there?
Nah, man, they done destroyed my childhood, man. They now calling it middle school, man.
It's now middle school. Yeah, they got a middle schoolers starting in sixth grade and ninth graders going to college, man. Ninth grade, we ran McClay, man, walking across what was it called? The Bonnie
Green. Yeah, the Bonnie
Green. Yeah. And, so being robbed of that opportunity, it just feels wrong. I feel like we should go back to McClay Middle School.
Let's do one. Let's do a podcast right there and on the Bonnie Green, man. That'd be awesome.
Right. Hey, I'm thinking about we should do it in the back of the field so we can hop the fence and go over the keys. But if you see me hopping the fence, you might have to get a stretcher from me on the other side.
Hey, man, we keep promoting keys, man. They're gonna have to give us some royalty or something, man.
Exactly.
Because I think about those chili cheese fries and those colossal burgers.
Those colossal burgers. First time I ever put pastrami, and I'm assuming it was ground beef on the same sandwich. Yeah. So that's cool. So I'm glad to hear everything's going. Man, there's so much I want to holler at you about. So much going on. This is going to be an amazing conversation. But as always, we have a special guest. This brother, I want to say so much about him, but, I want him to kind of, take the reins himself. I've been knowing this brother for probably, I don't know, maybe 3 years or so now. He's a major part of my life and the life of my children. I think he's a major part of the community. And I feel like my life has been improved just knowing that I have someone around like him to partner with. So without further ado, brother, you there? Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, sir. First of all, thanks for having me, brothers. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast. My name is Junie Davis. I'm a barber, business owner in Irvine, and I'm a person that cares about the community. So whatever that means, I do whatever we need to do to uplift the community and make it better. But thanks for having me.
Absolutely, brother. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. I'm glad you introduced yourself because you're humble. This brother, he's an Orange County business owner. He's a barber and in Irvine. For those of you who know Irvine, ain't a whole lot of us out here, right? And so he has a black barbershop in Irvine. When I first heard he was out here, I was like, who's this brother? What's up? What should I expect when I go? But he's exceeded every expectation as I would have of anybody. He's just one of them cats. He's community activist, community advocate. He's involved with some groups that I would love to have him talk about as we keep going. He's active in his church. He's a sports fan. Who's your team, Junie?
Yeah, that's what I'm finna ask.
Hold on, you're gonna make me look around and find something.
Don't have me move out the way. I rep mine. I got
the Buffalo Bills. Come on, Buffalo Bills.
Yeah,
that's my hometown. Like I don't know a lot of Buffalo Bill fans, man. We're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into that.
Sure.
They also shared with me that you served in the military.
Yes, sir. I was in the Marine Corps.
Thank you for your service, brother.
My pleasure, brother. You're welcome.
So Caleb also served. He was in the Army, and we've had a number of brothers on the show that have served. And let me just say to all of our viewers out there, we're not out there looking for bros that serve. It's just some good quality men out there that happen to have. I can't think of a person we brought on this show because they served, but and one sister. But we've had a nice influx of brothers and sisters that have served our country. And as Caleb, as you often have said, I'm a patriot.
Yeah.
And I know right now that's being tested, and not to the point where I no longer want to be a patriot, but you know, I say the same. I'm a patriot. I believe in this country. I believe in what we can do and how we can do it. And Junie, that's why we brought you here tonight, brother. We want to have some real good conversation, and we just want to talk about what that means and what's happening in the country, and you know, what are your thoughts and what are our thoughts, and let's see. I don't expect us to fix the world's problems tonight, but we can at least take a stab at setting them up for the next conversation.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right. So let's jump right into it. We know that today's Tuesday. So last Monday, I want to say that was May 24th. Does that sound right? May 25th?
Actually, it was last Tuesday. It was last Tuesday. We were on the podcast when the news jumped off.
The news jumped off. I think it happened the night before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we know the world knows what happened with Brother George Floyd. Since then, it's gone from the original coroner said there was no evidence of strangulation or asphyxiation. The private autopsy they had done, and the new public verbiage is that he was strangled, that there was evidence of his airways being cut off. The cop, the officer, Derek Chauvin, was arrested last Friday, I want to say, taken into custody. And one of the things we talked about when we first had this conversation was, well, he hasn't been arrested. And I don't want to hear about him being fired. I want to hear about when he's arrested. I want to hear about when the trial starts, when he's convicted, what happens then, and how does this situation change? Unless you guys want to add anything to that story, I kind of want to pick up right there. Just, you know, what's going on now? What do you see?
No, I'll defer. I'll defer to our guest, and then I'll follow him up because there's a lot going on. So let me defer to our guest, and then we can continue the conversation.
All right.
Okay, sure. I'll touch it real quick. I won't touch it too heavy, but number one, you mentioned the coroner, right? That if you study Black violence perpetrated by the police department, you will find, if you look at the coroner's report, you'll see a lot of consistency with coroners messing the report up that favors the police officer. Just like Eric Gardner. Same thing, exact same thing. Matter of fact, I could take you all the way back and show you many examples throughout the last 60 years of coroners being part of the problem for us not getting justice, you know, and letting the police officer off. The coroner is right in bed with them. I just had to make that clear. But really what's going on is people are sick and tired of being sick and tired. You know, you can't constantly kill unarmed Black men and women and no justice comes from it. People are going to get tired, you know, and my fear is where people stop trusting the system totally and everybody want to take the law into their own hands, then we have a huge mess to clean up.
Yeah, I'll just follow that by saying that I'm tired. I'm tired of having this conversation with friends and coworkers and family members. I'm tired of having that call to my daughter who lives in Georgia and checking on her. I'm tired of our politicians feeding us rhetoric that really doesn't move the needle and make any real change on these issues. I will say that since we had, it's been a week since this has come to our knowledge, and my initial question was, where's the outrage? Where's the celebrities? Where's the politicians? And I'm surprised. I've been really surprised, and I'm not going to eat my words, because they were kind of measured in their response initially, and now everyone seemed to be jumping on board. My initial question was, where are the entertainers? Where's the musicians? Where's the politicians that should be speaking out against this? And so since then, we've heard from a number of athletes throughout the sports world, from Colin Kaepernick to Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. We've heard from LeBron James, and we heard from Roger Goodell, and hopefully we could get into that a little bit, because Roger Goodell also made a statement today, but it seems very hypocritical against some of the other decisions that he's made against with the players kneeling that was led by Colin Kaepernick. So I'm happy to see the change, but I still have to pause and say, what was the delay? And as David and I mentioned last week, you're going to have to put your money where your mouth is. And I know Floyd Mayweather, he volunteered to pay for the funeral. I know that other people have started up legal funds, which is really good to hear. And I'll say this before I hear from you, Dave. There's been outrage from citizens complaining about these legal funds. Like, the legal funds are for the looters and the rioters. That's not what the legal fund is there for. The legal fund is for people that are protesting and arrested and need the support of good attorneys to have those charges removed. And so I've heard from citizens that were suggesting that these athletes and the money collected for the legal funds is to help criminals get off charges, and that's just not true. And that rhetoric needs to stop.
Yeah, man, so much. I try not to take notes. I just try to be in the moment and be there. But let me just say this: we're all tired. We're all frustrated. Someone asked me a couple of days ago, "Well, David, aren't you angry?" Absolutely, very angry. But I'm not 27 anymore. 27-year-old David, that anger was shown in a certain way. At almost 50, David, my anger is there. It's just it's repurposed. It's pointed in a certain direction. It's more about changing the system and enacting policy and making sure that the generations to follow me are safe, more so than getting involved in any type of civil disruption, et cetera. That's number one. Number two, we're tired and tired of having these conversations, tired of being asked the same questions. But if not us, then who? I live tired. So being tired has never been a reason nor excuse for us not to engage on anything that we are supposed to do. And I say that way because supposed to do is variable, right? I think the most important thing that we as a people can do is use our voice. And that's going to happen in a number of different ways. For some people, that's walking with a sign. For some people, that's a podcast. For some people, that's a conversation. For some people, it's any number of different ways to use your voice, and they're all effective. The last piece, and I just have to remind anyone who would point at the direction for what these legal funds are being used for, check the Constitution, right? Because everybody is entitled legal representation. And I'm not going, I can't think of what amendment it is or where it is, but I know it's in there that everybody is entitled to legal representation. And we've seen time and time again where someone who was, dead to rights wrong has gotten off because of the legal system and so forth and so on. And what these legal funds, in my view, are being set up for as a measure to assist for citizens who have had enough. I don't condone rioting. I don't condone public disturbance. I don't condone people going out breaking windows and this, that, and the other. But for some members of our society, that's the only way they know to respond, right? You got to remember this whole George Floyd thing and I'm not minimizing it by saying that, but it's not a single isolated incident. It's 2 months removed from Ahmaud Arbery.
Right.
And I keep saying her name. It's not Bernice Taylor. It's something Taylor. We're 2 months removed from just 2 other Black lives that were taken unnecessarily. We're a year removed from something else, 3 years removed from something else, and you keep adding the years, and you go back and back and back and back, and it's just another, as my mom used to say, the straw that broke the camel's back. It's another straw on top of the frustration that we've been feeling. And I'm not saying that, the people who did something should get off. What I am saying is that they should have a chance, just like everybody else. And if our entertainers and people of means are able to level that playing field a little bit to make sure that they get adequate representation, I'm all for it.
All right, amen with that. Amen with that. We've seen some police chiefs, we've seen some politicians come out, and we've seen people take knees. We've seen people hugging police officers, right? I saw a man crying today saying that we don't need the National Guard here, right? That's not what we need in our streets to help us address these issues. What we really need is system change, and so that's what we're here to talk about today.
I agree with that. The National Guard always got a heavy-handed approach. They only know one thing. They don't know how to police. Well, obviously, some of these police don't know how to police either. But the National Guard is structured as a military force. They're not a peacekeeping force. So they shouldn't be in our streets unless absolutely necessary. They got a bad history of killing civilians, that want to protest, even peacefully. So I agree with the National Guard. But speaking of the military, and Caleb, I know you can relate to this. In the military, we're taught to fight. Number one, we're taught to obey the Constitution. But we're also taught to fight enemies, foreign and domestic. Mm-hmm. But sometimes the domestic part gets left out for some of us when we come back. We have enemies in our own country that we have to fight. It don't have to be with the gun. Fight, I'm talking about just resist and peacefully fight, because we don't want to go there. But we have to fight the enemies that we have, even if they have on a uniform. And we have that, and it's hard for people to go against the police because of that. Because they're in uniform and they do a lot to keep people safe. And then if you do, I've seen the police come and attack you, right? Even if you're the guy with the videotape,
right?
I'm talking about later, like going back to Eric Garner, the guy that taped his death. The police was driving by his house, shining lights in his window, bull horns at 3 a.m, just all kind of harassment.
Right.
Just because he was the one that taped it. So it's hard for people to be strong, to take that stance against the police like we need to. Right. I mean, and people are sick now, and that's why you're seeing a lot of the rioting and looting. But if we're going to mention that, we got to mention that the police department said that it's been infiltrated by white supremacists who come to start trouble, to come to make a peaceful riot a violent one, a peaceful protest a violent one, excuse me. So it's a lot going on. It's even video of police pulling bricks out of a police truck, stacking them.
Right.
What are you putting bricks? We know what they put them there for, right? These bricks ain't to build, they are to destroy. So it's so muddy. The water is so muddy that we have to state all the facts, so it doesn't affect the peaceful protests, and more importantly, the reason why the protest started anyway. The death of another Black man at the hands of the police, who's unarmed, who was detained.
Right.
who was begging for his life. You know, and to me, and I ain't gonna go too far, but we know that it's a lot of laws in place. Not that we don't need some others. We need the laws to be applied evenly. That's what I see. Whether that's how the police treat us or how the district attorney treats us. If you're going to charge me, charge him with the same crime if he did it, and give him the same time that you would give me. That's all we're asking. We're not asking to be set free if we do something wrong. Right. We're saying treat us like you treat everybody else. And we're not getting that from the police or from the district attorney.
Well, I'm glad to hear a lot of other police chiefs across the country saying he needs to be charged, right? He needs to have his day in court. And so that's what people are fighting for. But there are powers that be that are trying to take away our ability to even make that argument. For us to say that we're outraged, people are disgusted with the suggestion that people will take to the street and go protest a senseless death and murder at the hands of police officers who are sworn to protect and serve. And I have police officers in my family. I have correction officers in my family. I have people, I serve in the military, and I know people in the military that were called up to protect to be on the streets. And so my heart goes with everybody. I'm an American citizen, and I'm with everybody that is affected. And we just want justice, and we want change. We don't want the same rhetoric and the same politicians standing in front of a church holding the Bible, stating that we're with you, but when they're really not. And so that's what we're upset about. We're upset about being kind of dragged along and pulled along without any resolution.
Exactly, and what both of you are saying is so real everywhere. It comes back to that disproportionality that we always talk about. There is one set of rules for us, another set of rules for them, and it creates a tension that every time you leave your house and you get in your car, you might be saying, "Am I next?" Right? We don't have the same thought in safety and security of pulling away after being pulled over. We don't have the same thought in safety and security or even the freedom of being able to express ourselves the way we want to, because someone might call the police on us because of X, Y, and Z, and we don't trust encounters with the police, rightfully so, because, of what's going on. But I think, not to move the conversation too far forward, what it tends to give us is a huge paintbrush that we start, just moving broad strokes left and right, and too many people get caught up in it. I was just on a call yesterday with some church members, and Junie, you were there, some police captains and police chiefs, and it was one of those conversations I was just happy to hear, right? And they talked about the training and how they look for officers and what does it mean for the community. A lot of the pastors were saying we have longstanding relationships with these individuals and we trust them, and that was the vetting which allowed them to talk. But I'm sure, and I'm not denouncing them or what they said in any way, but I'm sure that training is offered across the country. I'm sure. Whether or not it's followed, whether or not actions are taken into their own accord, and how much that training is reinforced is a whole another subject. But that training is there. The initial thought, I want to believe, and maybe that's just me being naive, I want to believe that it's not a go out and destroy mentality from the top. I do think it filters down like that as it goes out there, because I think in the majority of cases, a lot of police are operating from fear, and fear will make you do a whole lot of things, and you get away with it long enough, and all of a sudden you feel entitled, you feel empowered, and then all of a sudden now you're just rogue. And until someone stops you, including the 3 officers standing by watching you murder a man with your knee on his neck, then nothing will change, right? And so that's where I think a lot of this goes. But I think as a people, now we have to start looking at, what's next? Where do we go from here, right? If we could pull out, I don't have one. I don't have anything that even looks like it. Here we go. Got something. If we could pull out our crystal ball and start rubbing, and we look in it, what's next? What does this look like? We have, a number of protests going on. We have some bad stuff happening, but there's a lot of good stuff happening as well, right? We see some peaceful protests. We see some marches. I saw a gathering where people were doing the electric slide. I saw another one where they just kind of all sat in a circle. And honestly, I didn't see a lot of Black hands. There were some in there, but I saw kind of a sea of just multi-cultures, multiple cultures represented, and everyone just had their hand in the air, and it was silent. And I was like, okay, so we're gathering, we're getting together, we're showing that it can be done. What's next?
Yeah, I'll try to take a stab at it. I don't think that either one of us are going to really come up with any solution for this, but there's things that we could do as a nation. First of all, we need leaders to be able to speak to the systemic problems in this country. The racism, the pain, the trauma, the frustration, the hopelessness, the disappointment. We need leaders to stand up and continue to address the concerns of all their constituents. We need to make sure that this moment doesn't fade away into the background. We need to continue to talk about it and make policy changes. We need judicial changes. We need changes in regards to how the courts deal with police officers that are the bad apples, right? We need policy changes that affect our inner cities and our communities. We need to be mindful of, there are, 20 million people that are unemployed right now? Is that the unemployment rate? Is it 20 million people? And so if we have 20 million people that are unemployed, there is a lot of people that are stressed and not sure how they're going to provide for their family. And I believe that is also contributing to some of the opportunity rioting and looting that took place. Now, it just doesn't justify it, but we need to look at it holistically. Racism is not new. This is systemic. This goes back to slavery. This still goes back to the Jim Crow days and lynching, right? And so we need to start addressing those things and I won't say eliminate, but let's say it, eliminate the racial divide in this country. And that starts with leadership. That starts with our political figures. It starts with policy changes. And so I think that we need to also all of these people, all of the people with voices, those celebrities, those entertainers, those politicians, those news crews, all of those people with voices need to continue to address these issues as passionately today. As passionate as they are today, next week, next month, next year, until these concerns are correctly addressed.
I agree. I'm gonna start from the bottom and bring it up real quick. Number one, we got to deal with rogue police officers. And I disagree with you, Dave. It starts from the top. Because from my experience, and the same thing, it's a little different in the military. Military, I've seen you do this, you get that. I haven't seen anyone just outright break one of the UCMJ rules and wasn't dealt with. The military deals with you. I don't see the same in the police department because it depends on the top. And the good thing about that for us is we get to vote the top in. The top is not selected, they're elected. So we need to know who that top cop, that sheriff is. We need to know who they are, number one. So we got to deal with the structure of the police department from the top. Okay. Then once we get that in order, we got to report these police when they violate us, because then we could test and see if that sheriff is really about prosecuting that officer. When they pull you over, make a phone call in, make a report. A phone call is recorded. It's a report. Make that report on the officer. Get their badge number. Start getting that paperwork piled up, because the officer in Minnesota had like 21 different complaints.
Yeah.
Right. So that tells you there's a problem at the top there. Right. No officer should have that many and still be an officer. So, and then going past that, the district attorney works too closely with police officers to ever be in charge of prosecuting them. It's a conflict of interest.
Right.
We need an independent investigator on all police shootings. Somebody outside the county, way up on the other side of the state, should be called in to prosecute, or maybe even a state attorney, but we have to have an independent prosecutorial process, right? We have to have that, because the DA's been dropping the ball. They did it in Mike Brown. Oh, we're going to take it to the grand jury. We're going to throw so much information at the grand jury that no one hears or sees outside that grand jury. And then they say, we can't charge this officer, right? It's another little sneaky way of letting them off, So once we get by the DA, we got to nail our representatives, our senators, our governors, our councilmen and women. We have to put pressure on them to make sure that accountability goes where it's supposed to go, and that's going to take a lot of work. And part of that work is pressure from protesting, from calling, from showing up. You got to show up and be present and put pressure on them to do what they're supposed to do. That's part of my solution. And as you said, yesterday we were in that town hall meeting. We have several others. I encourage people to get engaged. Don't detach. Go know who that police chief is. Go show up and let them know who you are. Invite them out to things that can help them get more in tune to who we are. And if they're open to that idea, because it only helps. Like, I don't know if you recall, our church picnic last summer was 2 churches. I go to Second Baptist Church in Santa Ana and Christ Our Redeemer, the 2 biggest Black churches in Orange County. We had a picnic together, our church picnic together. We had over 1,000 people, 1,000 Black people, frankly, in the park. And the police came along, and they came and had a good time, was dancing, truly came and had a good time, stayed with us all day, which makes it easy for us to have conversations and dialogue when there's an issue, because we're having fun during the peacetime, so when wartime come, we already know each other, and we could start to try to fix the problem. Just some ideas that I think will help.
No, I think the ideas are great, and 2 things. One, from a point of clarification, I agree. You're not disagreeing with me. I agree 100%. It starts from the top, and that with them being elected officials, we do need to look at things that I'm just going to broadly characterize as service records. So if you take like that particular officer, Derek Chauvin, and look at, he got 20 incidents against him, yet he's still out on the force. Somebody's not doing their job at the top, which is allowing him to go. And we know that it exists all across the country. My point of that is, I'm sure in every police agency, every sheriff agency, there is a by the book set of guidelines that says this is how you properly administer a chokehold. Now, there's also somebody else that's showing you how to do that says, but if you interlock your fingers right here, nobody will know, and you can squeeze a little tighter. And as long as you don't hold it for more than X number of seconds, you can get away with it. And we see that type of systemic violation filter down the channel. And then when they get called on it, it filters back up. And then we see the evidence of it where the top is not effective at all. because nothing happens, right? The other point you made, and I think for our people, for Black people, for brown people, that's a hard one to swallow, that we have to make those reports, right?
Mm-hmm.
Typically, you know,
Right.
we expect a certain degree of hassle, so we're already prepared for it. I'm not justifying it, I'm not saying it's right, but we expect a certain degree. And then when it happens, it's so much easier for me to call Caleb and be like, man, I was coming home, I got pulled over, and this cop did blah, 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 blah. And then me and him gonna talk about it until I calm down, and that's gonna be the end of it. The odds of me calling the police station and making an actual report is pretty minimal, because as a people, we don't do that. We should, and part of the problem is that we don't. So that's why I say it's a hard pill to swallow. And, you know, as my mama said, when you can't say amen, say ouch, right? Because that's the point, that if we used our voices more to call the issue out before it becomes this global worldwide. I got pulled over and I got to go home, although it was wrong. So let me call and make the report. And 100 other, 1,000 other, 10,000 others like me do the same thing. Maybe Derek Chauvin wouldn't have had 21 incidents and still got to kill a Black man on the streets of Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Hey,
Right?
let me speak to that, because I've had this conversation a lot. Like, I'm not calling the police, right? Maybe I need to change. Maybe I need to change my position. But I'm not calling the police if I'm having problems, right? If there's someone out in front of my house, I'm still not calling the police. That's how I look at it, because I feel like I can protect myself. Now, not every citizen has the training and the weaponry that I have in my house, right? And so are comfortable using it to defend themselves, right? And so I'm often to say, I'm not calling the police because I don't trust them, right? I don't trust them. I don't want them in my neighborhood. I don't want them at my door, because I don't trust them because of the reputation that they have with Black people, right? And so, but maybe it's time to change that perspective. Maybe it's time to change that position, because if we could report police that are doing bad, then, and the system is supporting that. And that's the other reason why I probably wouldn't call them, right? I probably wouldn't call them, because if I call them, I would fear that they're just going to hide behind the blue veil of the police force, and nothing is going to happen. And so often we've seen nothing happen when we have recordings, we have video, right? And people still walking away free. And so I don't know how that would change why my position would change if they're walking free when it's in black and white, and it's a recording, when the police officer has a recording and my neighbor has a recording, and they're still walking free. Why would I call them ever to deal with any issue in my house? I might call them after I've dealt with the issue and say, hey, y'all need to pick up this body, right? But I don't think I would call them before something jumped off, just because because I grew up in the hood.
No, I could 100% relate to what you say. I feel just like you do in that respect, but I'm more or less talking about police harassment, right? Police violating your civil rights. Somebody breaking my house, somebody else gonna be calling the police.
Right.
I'm gonna be like you. I ain't even gonna call you and tell you to come get the body. Somebody else will do that, you know? So I'm like you. I don't call them for anything either, because my house is protected, and I feel like I can protect myself and my family anywhere I go,
right.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
But we got to get out the practice of being disengaged from the police, especially when they do something they shouldn't do to us. We have to create that paper trail, because I'm at a position now where I get called in. A chief might call me, hey, Junie, I just want to run this by you, man. You got a minute? Sure, right? They'll ask me. So I ain't the kind of guy, I ain't no yes man. So if I know Officer X violated people pulling them over, harassing them, pulling them out the car, doing all this crap they do in Orange County a lot. I can address it if we got the paper trail. So what happens is people will come in my shop. They'll say, "Hey man, you know what happened? Man, this officer pulled me over." Da, 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 da. I make sure, number one, that I hear their story out. Then I ask them some questions. Hey, well, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you, make sure they didn't do anything wrong? Because sometimes people don't even know that they did something wrong.
Right.
And once I find out that they didn't, then I go to that next step. Well, did you call the watch commander and make a report on that police officer? No, I didn't. Then I explain to them why that's important. You have to make that call. It's very important for the people in position that can fight for you, that have that voice for us. We need something that we could bring when we come, or it got to be something there. It got to be some there. We can't we can't come with a story and we don't have any paperwork to back it. Got to have the paperwork.
Junie, let me just say this to what you just shared, and I agree. At some point, in order for change, we all need to be open to change, right? And we all need to be at the table and be open to change our perspective, our perceptions, and our position, so that real change can happen. If I sat back and said, well, no, I'm never going to, I don't trust police, and I don't care to improve my relationship with the police, that's the wrong position. Really, it is. And so we need to be willing to change. I'm just not sure if I'm willing to call the police if someone inside my house threatened me at 1 o'clock in the morning. I think I'll take care of that, and then we could address that when the sun comes up.
So let me just throw this out there, Junie. We're on week 8, I think, episode 9 or something like that. When we started our first episode, we didn't even have a name. We weren't brothers from the 818. We were just happy to be talking online and having some conversation. One of the original names that I'd come up with, and we kind of threw a bunch in a hat and see what stuck, was To Win Some. And the reason it was like that is because there's a quote from Paul in the Bible who says, "I become all things to all men so that I may win some," right? And just this last 5 minutes of conversation is one of those points. If we can be honest enough as Black men to say, look, here's the problem, and I'm part of it, right? That, as a people group, and I'm right with you. You come in my house at 1 o'clock in the morning, you're going to wish you hadn't. And you're not going to be wishing it for too long, right? And when the police show up in the morning, hey, had to do what I had to do. My children are here. My family is here. I was protecting my house. That is what it is. Can you get me something to clean up this mess, right? And that's just that. But, again, I've been pulled over many times. I got caught jogging in Norwalk and got felony stopped by 8 officers, and all of them had guns in their hand. And 5 minutes later, I was back on my way. And honestly, I was just thankful that I never saw the inside of a police car through it. I was just thankful that I got to walk away. When I got home, the one thing I wasn't going to do was tell my wife about it, right? Because if I had told her about it, she would have called the police station and be like, I want to talk to somebody. And I was like, no, we don't do that. We're just happy to have made it through. And so, hearing what you said, Junie, hearing even your backup of it, Caleb, it just makes me as a man say, you know what? Yeah. If you want to see change, you have to be willing to change it. We have to be willing to be the first step, if necessary, in saying the next time something like this happens, I'm not just going to walk away. I'm not going to get his badge number and be all mad. And when I calm down, go on about my business. I'm going to channel that anger into something purposeful and saying that, hey, here's the problem. Chief so-and-so, officer such and such, badge number, blah, 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 did this to me, and I'm going to file that report because that's what's necessary. And again, if more of us did that, then officers like Derek Chauvin wouldn't have a chance.
Yeah, one last quick story. I had a client who was sitting in his car Saturday, 7 a.m. We start really early, 6 a.m. on Saturdays. He was sitting in his car, and I watched the police officer drive by really slow, like so slow that, I mean, all my bells and whistles start going off, right? So I walks to the window. My shop is tinted. You can't see in, but the door was open. So they was driving slow just to get that little peek in through the door, right? So I'm looking. One looked like a civilian hanging out the car. Make a long story short, it was a training officer and a new officer from LA who new to Irvine. This is new beat, training officer showing them kind of the beat kind of thing. My client walks in and said, man, yeah, them police officers just harassed me in my car, man, asked me all kind of questions, asked me, why did I come to this shop? Why did I drive so far? Just all kind of ridiculous questions. So I did like I normally do, got the whole story. I said, okay, I'll tell you what. Let me show you how it's done. Picked up my phone, called the watch commander right there. It's on speaker. The watch commander is trying to talk me out of it. He's like, you sure that happened? I said, yes. I asked my client, and he's right here. He can confirm it. He says, okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to pull their audio. And if there's something on there, I'm going to give you a call back, right? Wasn't even 2-3 minutes later, no joke, same two officers pull up and ask for the owner, right? Because I identified myself as the owner of the shop when I made the call. They wanted me to come outside. I said, oh, no, come on inside. I said, don't be scared of us, right? They didn't even want to come in the shop. I said, no, come on inside. Made them come in, and I said, now explain yourself. Why was you harassing him? And he tried to joke it off. Oh, it was just small talk. I'm new here. This is how we do it in LA. Man, I jumped in him with 2 feet, right? I said, number one, you shouldn't do that in LA. Right. This ain't LA. You violating this man's civil rights, harassing him. You don't ask nobody else these questions. I just tore into him, right? Because I already knew that his watch commander heard that conversation and sent him back. So I wanted to make sure that I gave him a good talking to and let him know we don't play that over here. And I told him, I said, I'm a Marine. I would have died for this country, you know, and still will, right? I'm not going to let you violate nobody here. You know, you're not my enemy. If you call me, if I can help you, I'm going to help you. I made it clear to him because I grew up hating cops, not liking them, well, no parts of them. But as I grown, I know there's some good cops, there's some bad cops. The good ones I want to work with. The bad ones, I want them out of here, right? I got the same energy. I'm going to be just as strong on either side. I love hard, and I knock you in your head hard when you're a bad one. So, I made that clear that this ain't happening. We ain't had a problem since with a police officer messing with one of our clients. And it also allowed me to have that relationship with the watch commander who ended up coming back. And it ended up just building a bridge. You know, started out a little shaky, ended up being a good thing. We just can't, we can't let it go. Right. We got to deal with it, and we got to do it in the right way. Because I'll be remiss to say that I don't feel some type of way being a former military man and seeing us just getting whacked. Right. You know, it does something to me. So I gotta go hard in the right way to solve these issues we have with this racist system that we have.
Man, I can't tell you how many lessons I've learned in the barbershop, man. Sitting in the barber chair, just listening to conversations. It sounds as if I could sit down in your barbershop and I could learn a lot about how to deal with police officers, how to deal with civil complaints, how to deal with politicians in my city. The barbershop I went to when I was growing up is Stylesville. I don't even think that is still there. Barbershop, tell me how you got set up cutting hair or being an owner of a barbershop.
Okay, I'll just say I learned how to cut. I'm from Buffalo, New York. I
Oh,
learned how to.
that's the reason for the hat. Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
it's
So
making
it's making
sense
sense
now.
now.
I'm from Buffalo. Started cutting there really just to put some snack money in my pocket.
Right.
Really, that's really how it started, and it evolved. I joined the Marines. I see that ordnance bomb too in the background. We're gonna talk about that one day.
Okay.
But I joined the Marines. I was an ordnance man in the Marine Corps, and I kept cutting. It was just something I did on the side. Just really, they almost made me do it because when you deploy, ain't no barbershops
Right.
in the sand, bro. So I was the barber cutting everybody's hair, and then when I came back, I got out. I was still had my faithful clientele. They wouldn't let me stop. I was working 2 other jobs and going to school. I didn't even really want to cut hair at that point, but people just kept me going, and they were like, "You should cut in the shop. You know, you better than the barbers in the shop and that kind of thing." So I end up working in the shop and end up owning the shop after 9 years, and I've been owning my shop for almost 13 years now.
Right, and I'm sure the conversations are rich. I'm sure that you hear everything from the sports stories to the issues of police harassment in neighborhoods, and so and it sounds as if you know where to direct them, how to teach them, and people are coming to your shop and they're getting an education.
That was one of the platforms um, I wanted to show. I didn't want it to be just sports talk or a bunch of cussing and fussing. I wanted our shop to be family friendly. I wanted to be friendly across all racial, religious, sexual orientate, any line. I want to erase a line. I don't believe in lines like that. I want anybody to be able to come to my shop and feel at home. And I wanted to be informative because I didn't grow up with a lot of knowledge. You know, my family was more street people.
Right.
So I didn't go to church, wasn't very educated, and that all started once I left Buffalo. I really started getting into my education. So I realized how common it is for us to be uneducated, especially about ourselves, which is really, really sad. But that's why in our shop, I used to play documentaries all the time. I was over the top. Like it'll be a playoff game on. I'm like, nah, man, we watching John Henry Clark right now.
Come on, man. Not
Yeah,
the
man.
playoff.
Yeah, I was bad. I got a balance now. I got a good balance now.
Need a couple TVs, man. We're gonna get you a couple more TVs.
I have it on all of them.
Well, let me tell you.
I just
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, but I just wanted to be informative, and I wanted you to walk out with something you ain't walk in with and deposit something because we learn from y'all. I always say the clients teach me everything I know. They really do. You plant the seed, I'm the kind of guy I'll go home and just be on it, get a full understanding, get the context, because I like sharing it and I want to know what I'm talking about.
Well, I'm gonna tell you from experience, Caleb. Like I said, I've been going to Junie's shop for about 3 years now. He's never even offered to trim me up. I think he just figures you're gonna do your own thing. But I take a very active role, as you both know, in the education of my children. And it's one thing of what they get in school, but based on where they go to school and especially where we live, there's a whole nother side of their history that they don't know anything about unless I teach it to them. So I'm always sitting them down, giving them information, facts, challenging their knowledge, allowing them to challenge the knowledge that they're getting is not just gospel because they're hearing it from some teacher. So I started taking them to Junie's shop. And let me just say this, Stylesville back in the day, I got a haircut for like $7, man. And we talking Gumby fades that was just banging, right?
Right.
I'm not going to put it on blast, but, Junie charges a whole lot more than $7 for a haircut.
As he should. That's the
As
going
he should, right?
man.
Yeah, inflation, times have changed. And I got 2 kids, right? So, but what I tell them all the time,
Hey,
right?
man, he's in the OC, man. He got to pay those bills.
Yeah,
That's
by
right.
the airport at that. So, he paying high rent. But one of the things I tell him is that, as far as I'm concerned, the haircut is free. I pay him because the honor of them being in his presence, to experience the barbershop for the hour that we're there, I would pay double. I would. And it's just because you can't imagine the level of conversation I get to have, because now things they've heard from dad anyway has now been validated and elevated to another degree. And we drive home with Slurpees, little plug for Slurpees and 7-Eleven. We drive home with questions based upon those conversations. And then the other thing about it, I wasn't there during the times of documentaries and playoff games. Praise God, thank you for that. And he got 3 TVs in there, man, and 2 of them are right next to him. He watches like this.
Hey, man, cut my hair, man.
He got a big one. He got a big one on the other side for everybody else, right? But he challenges everybody, right? So he's having a conversation with me, but he's ear hustling on what else is going on and hearing this, and he's in tune with all of it. And somebody say something that's, out of line, and I'm not talking about bad language and something that's inappropriate at that too. But if someone says something, oh yeah, man, I'm going to do this because that's what we have to do, and it's out of line, he'll be like, whoa, what you mean by that? And he'll entertain these conversations, pushing education with all ways. And sometimes there's an agree to disagree, but there's never a back down. There's never a, you don't get to say that. And the beautiful thing about the barbershop, let me just say this. Outside of the Black community, I don't know if there's any honor in the barbershop, right? And let me just be real with it. But inside the Black community, your barber is, your friend. He's your counselor. He's your therapist. He's your style coordinator. He's your educator. He can be your banker sometimes. I can't imagine, and I don't know maybe where you are, Junie, it happens, but I'm sure in the history of you cutting hair, you've ran against those bros that can't pay, right? And they're like, man, I'm gonna get you, and you find yourself running credit accounts but the feeling that a man has when he gets out of your chair and has that proper cut, the confidence that it instills. And so to anybody who's listening, the Black barber is a staple in the Black community, and we need more bros that's out there, and not just cutting hair, but understanding that entire dynamic. We need more brothers out there running shops, because you're basically, he becomes for us, it was the boys club, Caleb, right? Before it was Boys and Girls Club, when we used to go and just play caroms. And, there was that brother that was probably like 22, but he was too old to be hanging out with us, back in the day. But he was trying to give us a little knowledge. That's the barbershop, right? It's just seeds of knowledge in there. And you got to take what you can with who you can, but you'll never find another place where you'll sit with a bruh fresh off the corner with fat pockets and a lawyer getting his beard trimmed up, and the president of a local university just pulling up, all waiting in the same area to get the same service. It's truly a staple in the Black community. And for so many reasons, Junie, I honor you with that, but it's just a pleasure to have you there to bring my voice to.
Thank you.
It's a safe space, man. It's a safe space. And I don't know how many safe spaces you really could have conflicting opinions shared, and people walk away and say, well, let me consider that. And it is truly iron sharpening iron.
Yes.
Junie, tell me about, David told me about something I wasn't aware of. Tell me about the 100 Black Men of Orange County. What is that?
It's a mentoring organization for Black men. It used to be from 9th through 12th, but now it's from 6th through 12th. But the goal is to teach our young Black men what it is to be a Black man in the right way from Black men, and all the nuances, all the pitfalls. We teach a well-rounded curriculum that covers financial literacy, conflict resolution, a lot of volunteering and community service. We talk history, politics. We cover the gamut. because we want these kids to know who they are, where they live, and we want them to be successful. Our goal is to help every kid go to college, if that's their desire, or trade school, you know, or be an entrepreneur. But we want kids to be part of the solution. And so it's basically a mentoring organization for Black men. We also have the 100 Black Women of Orange County as well.
And there's different chapters, I'm sure, in other areas. This is the first time that I've heard of it, and I'm interested because I always say, if you can do more, you should do more. And I would like to get more involved. I don't know if I'm driving down to Orange County unless I get me a haircut pro bono. But maybe we could talk about something to get me down there one week in a month.
That would be nice. And what city are you in?
Man, I'm all the way in the Antelope Valley, the northern most part of Los Angeles County. So we are on opposite ends. We're about maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours away from each other.
Because there's one in LA. It's a national organization. I mean, it started in New York, but our headquarters is in Atlanta, but we have chapters all over the country. So you have an LA chapter you can tap into as well if Orange County is too far, but we would love to have you down in Orange County.
Appreciate that, brother.
Yes, sir.
They invited me out to a mixer a couple months back. Really got to talking to the brothers. Good group. You know, I find myself like you, Caleb, when you can do more, you should. I don't know how much more I got in me at the moment, but I definitely want to tap in as soon as I get a couple of these things off my plate. And I'm not just saying it as fluff. You know, I think that you also have to realize when you're doing too much, right? And so as soon as I get a couple of these things off my plate, I definitely want to become to seek membership and to, you know, be a part of that. I think that, you know, to put it bluntly, God has just blessed really all three of us. But since I'm talking, God has blessed me with way too much to sit on it, right? And I don't. I give back a lot. I do a lot for my people, my community, my children. You know, every avenue I can, I try to do. But when I see a good organization like that, I would be amiss if I said, you know, let me just avoid that. I want to be a part of that, and I want to just extend my outreach through that. So keep that channel open for me, brother.
Yeah, if I want to add, historically, the 100 Black Men has been more of a bourgeoisie ran organization. And it was like that in Orange County some years back. And I used to just sit back and say, you ain't helping us. You helping rich kids, you know, or I should say rich folks' kids, right? You're not going to where the poor Black men are and trying to help them, or the undereducated or underserved are. That's who really could use the program we have. So after watching, I watched for a while, and I would help them. I would always help because I liked what they were doing. I just didn't like how they were doing it, I would say.
Right.
So what, like anything else, I'm saying this to say, whether this NAACP, any organization you could think of that's doing good stuff, but you don't like how they're doing it, get involved. Because soon as I got with this organization, now we're in darker places of the county where we wouldn't go before, right? We're doing serving the homeless, like, you know, is one of my passions. I just have a heart for the homeless population. Now, I don't care how you got out there, I still have a heart for you. But I'm basically able to stretch the 100, and whoever, like all members, would take the 100 somewhere that I couldn't take them. You know, so we just need more well-rounded men who are Black and love these brothers and different life experiences, because it's all going to enrich their life and their education. So that's important.
I want to add, I mean, we started talking about the protests and George Floyd, and Dave asked for a solution. And since I'm glad our conversation has shifted, because it shifted from looking at all the negativity of the past week, right, to something else, a conversation that's much more positive. And I would add that this needs to be added to the solution, education of our community, our Black youth, right? And I won't just say our Black youth, I mean, our community in whole, right? Because there lies the issue. Like I think Black folks kind of know their plight, right? But we need to get everyone else on board so they could understand that, you know, Black Lives Matter doesn't mean that your lives matter less than mine, right? It's just treat us all as equal. And so I'm glad that the conversation has shifted, because that's where we need to go. We need to shift from being stuck with protesting and the issues and the hurt and the pain and the frustration to some real actionable steps that we could take as a community.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I too am glad for the shift, and I think that you know, Caleb, you and I grew up fortifying one another with our own lies, right? LIES. Let me tell you what I did. I'll tell you what I did. And we found strength in one another, trying to compete, stay active, be the man, you know, all those types of things while keeping ourselves out of trouble at the same time. And that worked for us. And I think we operated in that exception. The rule is we need to educate our youth, right? So it's not them fortifying each other with their own lies, but living with a new truth that maybe no one ever told them. That, yeah, Black Lives Matter doesn't mean my life matters more than yours. It means my life matters too.
Right.
Right. And we have to be able to say that. But if you don't say that to your children, they won't know to say it when called upon. If you don't tell your children that they are genuinely strong and fortified and loved, they won't know to respond with that. If we don't give them the words of affirmation that they can use for themselves, they won't know to repeat it. They'll either come up with some crazy mess, lash out, or hopefully they got a homie that they can build each other up off of each other's lives. And again, but that's not, I didn't grow up with me, right, in my life, you know, but my children do have me. Your children you didn't grow up with you, but your children do have you. I was asking Junie about his children, and his children are adults, but they grew up with him and have now been able to pull and hopefully grow and strengthen from the wisdom that he has given to him. And so I think that is really, there is no one answer for how do we get past this. It's the individual steps that we have to take today and keep taking that will slow the spread of this systemic culture that we live in that pushes us as a people down.
There you go.
Yes. Right. And if I could add into that, Dave, you're absolutely right. We need to quit painting with a wide brush, right? I'm just gonna give you my little pet peeves. It drives me nuts. All white people, liberal whites, or what? Just let's quit homogenizing and broad brushing.
Yep.
Because what happens is, you know, you're wrong from the top. It's no all. It's rarely all with anything. We know that. Mm-hmm. So be specific, because what you can do is, like, a quick example, the former mayor of Irvine, we've been going back and forth for the last couple of days because she's hurt, because she feels that she's not trusted by the Black community because of what some so-called Black leaders have said about liberal Democrats, how you got to watch them, you can't trust them, the Hillary Clinton voters who voted for Donald Trump, right? The shady liberal white person that's supposed to be your friend, but when you get killed or murdered by the cops, you don't see them, they're silent, you know, that kind of thing. So she took it kind of hard, because Van Jones just said, oh, all those Hillary Clinton voters, right? Instead of just being specific, and because all the Hillary Clinton voters aren't all bad, you know? I mean, so we just got to talk in a more straightforward, direct, and no broad brushing, because that hurts our allies, right? That we have, because we do have allies out there who don't look like us,
Right.
you know, and we don't need to alienate them more um, than they are already. Need to bring them in, you know. So that's one thing. The broad brushing, and why we keep kicking conspiracy theories down? I mean, I hear them so much. I want to challenge them all. You know, it's just my nature. But I know I can't do that. I'll be doing it all day. But I just can't let, like, for instance, coronavirus, black folks couldn't get it in my barbershop. Somebody came in there and actually said that. And I almost lost my mind. Black people can't get a virus? Wow. You know, where's the proof for this? So this one thing about my shop, and you know this, you better be able to prove what you say. You can't just come and say anything. You got to prove what you say. One of my favorite lines is, "We have free Wi-Fi, and don't take my word for it. Look it up." Right? If I share something with you, don't just take my word for it. Look it up.
Mm-hmm.
You share something with me. Oh, source it for me. Let me see where you got this from, where I could go look at it myself. Because all it's gonna do is educate us all even more. You know, we got to be in that practice of, the street people would say it, right? Before you call somebody a snitch, where's the paperwork? Got to show the paperwork, right? We got to have that same level. It's really just accountability. You got to have that same level of accountability culturally for us, because we will say some stuff, can't prove it for a second, but boy, we know it's true, right? We got to stop that, because it hurts us. I just see it. It's hurting us.
Yeah, I think, well, not I think, I know that, you know, you hear something on the news, gotta be true, you know, so I'm gonna go run and I'm gonna speak it like I got it right out the Bible. You know, this is gospel. My mama told me this. She's not even around, you know, that type of thing. So the truth comes out, and the truth, that's the beautiful thing about the truth. It can always be tested. It can always stand the heat, because it's the truth. A lie will fall apart every time. And it doesn't matter who said it. You know, we've seen, I mean, look at our president. You know, the words just don't have the same ring. And we have to be able, as a people, to vet it, or at least have someone around who's not afraid to challenge others on whatever words they say. So I hear you there. This is normally the time where I say, hey, we got about 10 minutes left and we want to start wrapping up. But honestly, that was 10 minutes ago. And the conversation has gotten real good. So, Junie, we want to thank you. I'm really hoping that we can have you back again. We have some people claiming that 100th episode, but maybe we can get you on the 50th, or we'll be having some panels out there, or whatever the scenario may be. But we want to definitely have you back, just to chop it up some more, man. I think your insight and, you know, just your words and how you're not afraid to say what's what will be good for our users. I know it's good for our viewers. I know it's good for me. Caleb, what you got?
Oh man, it's been a great conversation, and I've learned a lot. And I think like what we were saying before is that, you know, we learn from conversation. We learn from differing with others, right? And I like how you ended your last statement about, if you come into my shop, you're gonna have to be able to back it up. I think that people are able to come into the shop because it's a safe space, right? And they keep coming back because they understand that there's a sense of community in the shop. So I'm just glad that I feel like we moved the conversation forward. And anyone listening, maybe they could hear something in what we shared and take it to their office, to their cubicle, to their break room, to their house and share with their family members and continue the conversation around their watering hole and just ask the question, now what? How are we going to move this forward? What's next for us? What can I do to be part of this change because I'm committed to doing it?
That's real. So Junie, final closing thoughts. I'm gonna let you lead us off. I have a question that we want to throw at you, and if you can incorporate it into your closing thoughts, that would be great. And it's going to seem out of place, but that's how we do things around here. What are you listening to right now? Go ahead and give us some closing thoughts and answer that question.
All right. Closing thoughts is we have to fight this system piece by piece. I think we know where the problems are. And I think we know the solution because it's not a new problem. The solution been given to us time and time again. We had this same issue with the Black Panthers, right? What did they do? They start confronting the police, not in an aggressive way, but holding them accountable, right? Till they end up, being taken out through COINTELPRO. But we have to attack this system where we know the problems are, whether that's the police chief, whether that's the district attorney, whether that's our senator, governor. We have to hold them accountable, and we got to be part of government now. Even at a younger age, we got to throw our hat in the ring. Like my kids ask me all the time, what should I be doing right now, right? And I know them, so I give them ideas. But I say we got to be part of the system, the structure of the system. That's where the change takes place. Like getting a Thurgood Marshall in the Supreme Court was a big deal because for a portion of time he was that deciding vote. So we have to get to the table. We have to be police officers. We have to be attorneys. We gotta get busy. We got a lot of work to do to get rid of systemic racism and put accountability where it's supposed to be so we could just be treated like everybody else. So I would leave with that. Also, I'm big on education, but also service, right? It's such a blessing and it's educational to serve. I'm super active in my church. And it's really about service for me. The Lord brought me through all that I've been through, I believe, to serve everyone, because I could serve everybody, whether that's the homeless person in LA or the brother who just fell on hard times who was a millionaire. It's about service. We all got to serve, and we all got to help people who need help. One major solution across the board that will immediately empower the people regarding police overstepping is a community advisory board. We're working on one in Orange County, and we don't even have no issues like that in Orange County at the moment. But we're working on putting a board together that consists of police chiefs, because we don't want your assistants. We want the chiefs. We want the decision makers. Police chiefs, representatives from the district attorney office, because we know we can't just get the DA all the time. But we can get the chiefs all the time. And the people. Whenever there's an issue, if you got this board, this oversight board, we can make sure that these officers be held accountable. That will give us a direct line to the chiefs and to the district attorney. And if we already got a relationship, I think it's easier to get things done. So we trying to be ahead of the curve here in Orange County. So we already headed that way. It's going to be a march probably, which some people disagree with, and I understand. It's going to be a march, and then it's going to be a more like a talking session or a
town hall.
More like a town hall, and then we're going to go towards that community advisory board creation, because I really see that being a big solution to dealing with these police officers. And if the chief don't, we know now. We know, okay, this chief did not do anything, or the district attorney did not do anything. Then we know who to deal with. We can really identify the problem and deal with it appropriately. That would be my last message. But what I'm listening to, I'm a groove guy, because I honestly, I have PTSD, right? Diagnosed. I have issues, I have aggressive issues, so I do everything in my power to beat it down. My spiritual man has been winning, which is the best thing to do, build your spiritual man up, but also my music, just everything. I'm really conscious about toning aggression down, because like he's Army, he knows what I'm talking about. Marines is like by 10. That the psychological things we go through is by 10.
Right.
And it don't go away when you finish your contract. You take it home with you, And I'm at the point where I know what it is. I identify it. I know, Matter of fact, I had somebody had to tell me. They said, "Man, are you okay?" And I was like, "Why you ask me that? I'm fine." He was like, "Man, you got piranhas in your fish tank. You got guns in every room. Rottweiler that'll bite on sight. Like everything." And I ain't even realized it. I just looked up and was like, "I think I'm crazy. Right. I think something's wrong." So I said all that to say, for me, it's about love, and really fighting a good fight. I'm a fight it till I die. I care about all people, but I especially care about Black people, because we're the ones being attacked disproportionately in this country, and we all we got. We really do. We all we got, and we could do better. We could do better for each other.
That's what's up.
Hey, Dave. Yeah, man. We're just going to be long. We're just going to go long today, man. I got a lot to say. I got to follow that. So first of all, thank you for sharing your PTSD. A lot of people are ashamed to talk about their PTSD. I have PTSD as well. My brother was in the Marines, and you talked about how the Marines experience is so different. I remember my brother, he came home from a basic, man, and he was a different person. He was broken. I would ask, I'm talking, I'm 15 years old. I would say, "Hey man, what's going on?" "Sir, yes, sir." Right. And I was like, I don't think I'm going the Marine route, right? I'm not going the Marine route. So everyone here that know my brother, yeah, he was affected by those drill sergeants, those Marine drill sergeants. And so, but I'm guessing that your PTSD is from other service, as mine is, and so people don't realize that. My service to this country, and here I go again talking about me being a patriot, right? There's my other brothers in arms that are affected by their service to this country, and here we come home, and our freedoms are snatched away from us. And so I think of one of our fundamental rights in this country is the freedom of speech, and don't take it away by saying that our protest is in violation of civil disobedience, right? Don't take away our ability to protest the murder of George Floyd in broad daylight, with cameras rolling. And so we should have that. I will close by saying that I listened to Scarface today. I'm a big Brad Jordan fan. And so I listened to Scarface, and I thought I would turn on, I Never Seen a Man Die until name of the song is I Seen a Man Die, right?
Yeah, that's a cold
But
song.
then it affected me in a way that, because the whole song is not, I was looking for a part, and really it didn't come into the end, right? And I don't always listen to Scarface, but the part that I was listening to, looking for, was when he was talking about, make peace with your God, you need to patch it up. But if you're ready, close your eyes and we can set you free. Here lies a man, not scared to die. May he rest in peace, right? And so
I'm gonna need you to run off that 16 a little better than that. But go ahead. I don't want to mess up your flow. Go ahead.
hey, my brain ain't clicking the way that it used to,
Right.
20 years ago, 30 years ago on the San Fernando stage. So,
Right.
but I was listening to Scarface, and I've seen a lot of people affected by George Floyd's death, and I saw people in pain, man, and it affected me because I see, like I shared earlier, I saw this man crying in front of the news cameras talking about, we don't need the National Guards here. We just need to be heard, right? We're here because we want change. And so I like the thought of the advisory board. I think people got comfortable after Obama got elected, and thinking that everything was going to change and everything was going, like racism was going to go away, and all the systemic issues that we have in this country was going to magically disappear when terms are only 4 year at a chunk. And so the last thing I'll say before I toss it to you, Dave, is that my children, man, they've been having a hard time sleeping. And so I put them down. We read them one story, two story, three, four story. And then I picked up the Bible. I picked up my phone and I was reading them from the Bible app. And I was reading John 15 and verse 12. And my command is this: love each other as I have loved you, right? And the room went quiet, and I continued to read. I read the Bible, and my children fell asleep. And so I might make that part of my children bedtime routine after reading them their normal bedtime stories. Dave.
You're right. We're just gonna go long. Public service announcement. This will be the special extended edition of the Brothers from the 818 podcast. But the takeaway for me is pick up a smaller brush, people. These broad paint strokes that we've been using to paint a people group is just not fair. And when we say not fair, people will come back, it hasn't been fair to us in either. You're right, it hasn't, but wrongs have never made wrongs right. And somebody has to do the right thing. And so we need to be able to look at all of these scenarios with a smaller paintbrush. There are allies out there, and we need allies, and they don't necessarily look like us, but they do champion the causes that we cause, that we fight for. Just like we're doing tonight, in whatever means you have available, use your voice. The silence that you would show during this time is the compliance of the agenda against us today. You have to use your voice in whatever means that is. Everyone can't do a podcast. Everyone's not going to be on the front stage, but there's so many different ways to educate yourself, educate others, be there for your fellow man, and make sure that people understand what this time really means. And for some of you, that means you're going to have to figure out what this time really means. And it's not a come up. It's not an opportunity to get some stuff to do something with later. It's a time to be part of something to make change. And so on the other note, I've been all over the place today. I woke up this morning with X-Clan on the mind. And I was listening to Grand Verbalizer, What Time Is It? And I hadn't, I'm all real about my old school, but I hadn't heard that in at least 10, 15 years. And I was right there with it, man. I was like, I remember this. And as always, he ends the song, Grand Warriors. This is protected by the red, the black, and the green. At a crossroads with a key. Sissy, so that's how I left the house this morning. I got moving. I don't know how Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince, a brand new funk came on, but then that took me to my funk tracks, and I was listening to Chocolate City a little bit today, and I found myself celebrating my people through a history of music today. And it just kind of gave me a sense of positivity that I try to carry anyway, but it gave me a sense of self-pride that a lot of times gets challenged in this area of Orange County. You know what I'm saying on that, Junie? But we can't let it tear us down. And tonight, I shared with my children my latest, my version of a TED Talk. And, even they were just like, wow, I don't understand why, Dad, but I'm glad to know that you're speaking out on it. The saying says it's not what you know, it's who you know. And what that really means, it goes back to what you said, Junie. We can know a lot, but it's the relationships that we form with people that will get us to the next level. And that's on any issue. And any groups that we're a part of are about building those relationships to establish community for any issues that we want to face later, or things that we want to address. It turns your voice into the power of multiple voices, and allows things to get done in a better, faster, more efficient manner. So again, this has been Brothers from the 818. You can email us your thoughts, concerns, ideas for future shows at brothersfromthe818@gmail.com. You can follow us on YouTube at Brothers from the 818. You can catch us on Spotify and all of the Apple Music, Google Music, and all of those at Brothers from the 818 as well. You can also catch us on Twitter and Instagram at the same. So I'm David. You had Caleb in the house tonight. We've had my man Junie. Follow him. He's at Creations Barbershop. Check him out as well. And God willing, until we see each other again, y'all just stay safe out there. Stay positive. Remember to use your voice. Honor Brother Floyd with everything that you do. And check yourself before you do it to make sure that our reasons for whatever we're doing are right and righteous. That's all we got. Y'all be blessed. Until next time. Peace.
Peace.